Well, it's fairly tranquil out there today, but that's about to change in a big way. A trifecta of weather events is set to affect the lower 48 over the course of the next 7 days, starting with a severe weather outbreak in the south this weekend, followed by a flooding threat through the Ohio Valley and a potential East Coast winter storm next week. We've got all the details, so strap in. A special Valentine's Day edition of Cold Rain's Weather World starts right now. Happy Valentine's Day, folks, and welcome to another exciting edition of Cold Rain's Weather World. My name is Jason Pritchard, your host for the show, and I want to thank you very much for joining us today. Now, before we dive into all the interesting weather that's coming up over the next week, I want to remind you to please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and if you find value in the content, share it with friends and family. And turn on those notifications so that you get notified when new videos come out. Also, leave a comment in the comments section. It can be a question, it can be a comment about the show, a suggestion for future shows, or more importantly, a prayer request. Maybe you've got something difficult going on in your life you'd like for us to pray for. We want to be all about that here at Cold Rain's Weather World and build a community around supporting and encouraging each other, lifting each other up. So I'm happy to pray for any requests that pop into the comments section. So please feel free to do that. Now, before we dive into our show today, I want to take a minute and, as always, ask our trivia question for today. Now, today's trivia question has to do with the layers of the atmosphere, or a portion of the atmosphere. So here is the question. What is the term for the atmospheric phenomenon where a cold air layer becomes trapped beneath a warm air layer, often leading to fog and pollution? Is it a heat dome, a jet streak, cyclonic convergence, or an inversion? Well, you'll find out at the end of the show, but if you already think you know, put it in the comments section and let's see if you're right. Now, on with the rest of the weather. So we're going to start here and take a look at the radar image. Nothing too scary going on around the country today. We've got some light snow over the Heartland area, back down into southwestern Missouri. We've got several pockets of snow through the Rocky Mountains into the Sierra Nevada, and you can see rain working into California and some other portions of the desert Southwest. Even a little lake effect snow band coming off of Lake Erie, directing itself right through basically bisecting New York State. So interesting little feature there. We've got a lake effect snow warning in effect for this area, and we will take a look at that here in a minute. Now, here are the temperatures that are expected over the next couple of days. This is according to the NAM, and it's pretty accurate with this, I think, for the most part. So this gives you a general idea. Cold across the northern half, mild across the southern half, but watch here in Louisiana and Mississippi. You can see as we get into tomorrow afternoon and in the evening, warm air surging out of the Gulf here. This is going to set the stage for a severe weather event that we're going to talk about here in a minute. And by the way, I will put timestamps for all the different segments of the show in the comments so that you know where to go to if you're looking forward to hearing about the severe weather. I'll put that in there if you want to hear more about the upcoming winter storm potential. You'll see that in the details section. So in any event, warm air is going to surge in here. You can see this little cold air damming footprint. High pressure is going to work in and send a northeasterly flow down the eastern side of the Alps. You get this little footprint of CAD here, and so that's going to keep it a little bit cooler in the Carolinas. And eventually, the storms and the cold front is going to work east, sending a line of storms and warmer temperatures east into the Carolinas. Is going to erode that cold air damming, and then all of that's going to push off to the east, and cold air is going to fly in from Canada. So that is your temperature profile. Now, taking a look at the hazards map, winter storm warnings for the mountains in California over into the Rocky Mountains. Some of these areas are going to pick up a foot of snow, some strong winds here in southeastern Colorado. Winter weather advisories over much of the west and into the Great Lakes. Some of these areas could pick up as much as 3 to 6 inches of snow, so nothing really to write home that's going to lock the city up or anything like that. Just know that you can expect some nice Valentine's Day snowfall, hopefully in some of these areas, and over here into the Northeast as well. So 2 to 4 or 5, 6 inches in spots with the glaze of ice on top. So we got winter weather advisories up for that, and winter storm watches up as well as we get into New York, and even wind advisory. So some gusty conditions. Hold on to your hats up here in northern New England. You're going to see winds gusting 35 to 45, maybe even 50 miles per hour here. And then we've got this little lake effect snow warning. And so we've got a little band of snow coming off into New York. This is going to drop anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of snow, maybe a few more, up to a foot in spots if this thing kind of remains stationary. But it's not one of those where you're going to see 3 feet of snow. But just know that you've got some heavy snow as part of this band coming in, cold air moving off the lakes. It creates instability in these little pockets of snow form. So that's going to be the case over the next couple of days. And as a matter of fact, let's do this. There you can see it a little bit better. I've been talking about it, but I didn't have the display on the correct display. So you can see that band a little bit better here show up. It's just moving pretty stationary over the same area. So I'm going to put this back on the other display and move over to our severe weather threat. So we've got potential for severe weather to break out across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, portions of Arkansas on over into western Georgia and Tennessee as we get into the weekend. Now what's driving this? So first of all, there's going to be instability that works in from the Gulf. So moisture is going to come in off the Gulf, and it's going to interact with warmer temperatures, and it's going to create an unstable environment. No need to get into the details of it, but you're going to have plenty of instability, especially over Mississippi and kind of into Alabama as well. Louisiana, you're going to see that instability pick up to Saturday afternoon and evening. In association with that, a low-level jet is going to develop and sweep in along with the thunderstorms as they develop. And so you can see here that really starts to take shape. These brown areas are 50-knot winds. These lighter areas are 70-knot winds. And this just gets stronger as we go forward in time. So right about here, so we're looking overnight in the late evening hours on Saturday, strong low-level jet. And the thunderstorm line is about right in here. So you're going to have a situation where the line organizes into a linear squall line, and it's going to make use of its strength and make use of this jet here. So that's going to take place over the course of Saturday afternoon and evening. These strong winds are going to get translated down ahead of that line of storms. So you're looking at really a wind damage threat in this entire area here. So Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, up into Tennessee potentially. So this is the kind of the highest area that I would be focused on in terms of your wind threat and your tornado threat too. There's going to be spin in the lower layers of the atmosphere. So any supercells that develop out ahead of that line could spin up a tornado, but you're really going to see the main threat of tornadoes kind of be along the line the way it looks now. Now that could change a little bit as we get into tomorrow. So pay attention to forecasts and updates from the Storm Prediction Center. But that's the way it looks now. Keep your weather radios handy, keep the alerts on your phone, be prepared for some power outages all across, anywhere from here down in through Alabama into Georgia up into Tennessee. Potential power outages in here with strong winds gusting potentially up to 70 miles per hour. As that line works on off to the east, we'll take a look at the radar and the simulated radar for the NAM. It'll show us what maybe to expect as we get in through Saturday evening and Sunday. So you see the precipitation starting to break out here. Moving that on ahead, you see the squall line start to develop. A few supercells develop out ahead of it, but the line takes shape in conjunction with those 850 millibar winds. And you see this line just push on off through Alabama. It weakens over time. So we start to get into Georgia, into the Carolinas. You can expect some thunder probably and some lightning, but I wouldn't expect a lot of strong winds here, maybe a gust or two, but you can see that pushes on off through the Carolinas, off the coast, and out of everybody's hair by the time Sunday evening rolls around. So that brings us to our flooding threat. We've got all these flash flood watches. Well, we looked at those earlier, but you're going to see anywhere from 4 to as much as 5, maybe even 6 inches of rain in spots. We've already got river flood warnings. These are those little lime green areas. And so more rain's going to fall here, more rain's going to fall over the southeast as that line moves through. But this is the area where we're going to see training of cells and potentially higher rainfall amounts. And to that end, the Weather Prediction Center has got that area highlighted. You can see that here. I'll use yellow and we'll take a look at that. But right in this area here is where you can expect the strongest or the highest precipitation totals. Down along the Gulf, got a couple of inches here as well. But this is the area where there's going to be flooding potential. So stay alert for any warnings that come out ahead of or during the event as it unfolds. And you can see how that unfolds. We looked at the convection earlier, but pay attention over Tennessee into Kentucky into West Virginia, into southern Illinois and Indiana and Ohio. Look at how these heavy rain areas of heavy rain start to merge together and really into a line, and it kind of trains over the same area. So that's what we watch for. We watch for flash flooding, or heavy areas of precipitation moving over the same areas, and it looks like that will be the case here. Eventually everything pushes off north as that low pressure takes shape. It drags this cold front through, snow up in the northeast, and heavy rain for the Tennessee and Ohio valleys. Here at Cold Rains Weather World, we need sponsors to support our operation. So if you have any suggestions for sponsors, please put those in the comment section and we'll take those under advisement. Today's sponsor is Offline Mobility. If you're tired of underpaying for phone service that works too well and is far too reliable, check out Offline Mobility. We offer a wide range of plans that are sure not to fit any budget, and our monthly overuse charges will be sure to flatten your wallet with the greatest of ease. Here at Offline, we know that size matters, so while visiting our store, you can choose from a wide range of state-of-the-art bag phones guaranteed to make your friends and neighbors jealous. Our service is second to all, and our spotty network ensures that you'll have great coverage while in our stores. But if you need help down the line, you can call our support line from the comfort of your own home, assuming you're lucky enough to be able to access the network. Our grumpy operator is standing by to help with all the issues that are bound to come up. So come see us at Offline Mobility, where the connection is mid and the prices are high. You won't have to worry about hidden fees here. We charge them all right out in the open. Coverage restricted, charges, rates, fees, duties, tolls, and tariffs may apply. Chargers sold separately, batteries not included. Thank you, Offline Mobility. Now, before we talk about the big East Coast winter storm potential next week, we first need to talk about the Arctic outbreak that's going to occur into the central part of the United States, because this is what's going to set the stage for our big storm. So we're looking at the European Ensemble Mean 850 millibar temperature anomaly map. Again, anomalies are magnitude above or below average in the context that we're viewing them today. And so the purples on this map are very cold temperatures, minus here in the really light purple here, it's minus 30. So this is a scale breaker. This is off the scale. Minus 30 below average. You can see some warmer than average temperatures along the East Coast, but they're not going to last long. So watch this as we set this into motion. 72 hours out to 6 days, 7, 8, 9 days, and this bleeds on off into the east and mutes or moderates over time. But this is very cold air coming in, courtesy of a very strong high pressure system. Now, how cold is it? Let's take a look. So this is the actual temperature map. And so starting at 72 again, you see minus 22s up in Canada, single digits across Iowa and portions of the heartland. But look here, 34 degrees below zero, 29 degrees below zero, 30 below, coming back into the northern plains. You people have just been under the gun with extreme cold, and that's not letting up. And so we're going to see that work into the central part of the country, minus 30s, minus 20s, minus teens, single digits, and zero as far south as northern Kansas, northern Missouri, over into Illinois and Indiana. And you can see those temperatures just day after day. It's going to be very, very cold. So bundle up and limit your time outside. And you can see that bleed east over time. So central part of the country first, then east on in as we go out through the 7 to 14 day period. And again, this will moderate a little bit. The European ensemble has the Pacific jet cranking up and about to flood the United States with milder air toward the end of the run. But we'll see if that's actually true or not. I'm not so sure that it will be. Now, what's happening with our storm? So this is the ensemble mean again, and what we're looking at here is the upper instead of the 850 temperature map, we're looking at the 500 millibar temperature map. Or a height anomaly map, rather. And so you see a couple of interesting things here. You're seeing this block that we've been talking about for the last couple of days, this trough in the central part of the country. This is where a storm is going to. We've got some upper level energy here that's going to combine and form a storm off of the southeast or eastern coast. And then we've got our 50-50 low that's pulling out. And what you want to see is that 50-50 sort of stay in place, the block to be strong to force the storm track south if you're in the southeast. If you're in the northeast, you want a little bit more latitude, a little less latitude for that. So here's what's going to happen. Watch this. The block starts to erode a little bit. The 50-50 pulls out, and then that storm system develops and cranks off and on off into the east. So this is a good pattern for a winter storm. The devil is always in the details, and so we're going to have to watch how this all plays out. But those are the main features that we're watching. We want this confluence area to hang into the east a little bit longer so that areas farther south where I'm at, can get in on the action. I'm rooting for snow, and so we'll see how that shakes out. So this is our European ensemble, a 24-hour snowfall map. And so this shows how much snow falls over the 24 hours. I'm using this so that if we use the snow total, there'll already be snow on the ground and it'll contaminate the map. So this gives you a good idea of what last night's European ensemble thinks in terms of where the snow might fall. So we roll this forward. You see how it kind of comes across Kentucky into Virginia. This area in here, and I'm gonna just go ahead and put this on the map. Let me grab my pen here, and I will show you. This is the area that I really think has the greatest potential to see the most snow. That doesn't mean that European ensemble lines this up pretty good. That doesn't mean that other areas aren't going to see snow, but somewhere in this area I think has the opportunity to see the largest snowfall out of this. Now, of course, we're going to see how all this stuff plays out. But that's my thinking as of right now. So that's the European, and it sort of shows the footprint along the lines of what I'm thinking, and it actually moves this on up into southern New England. So, you know, you guys see some snow up there. I think this is a pretty good likelihood that this thing is not going to go out to sea, that it's, some of the models are showing it kind of flat and moving on out like this. Other models are taking it with more amplitude up the coast. Some of the newer guidance that's just coming in, we're going to take a look at that here in a second. So this is one of those models I'm talking about. So this is the GFS ensemble snowfall mean too. And as you can see here, what the GFS does is it keeps it fairly weak, right? So there's not a lot of snow that develops out of this. I mean, several inches are going to fall across Virginia, maybe 6 inches or so. It goes on up to the mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Again, same sort of similar thing, but it's a little weaker. It's not as impressed with the potential of the system. I think it's going to be stronger than that, and I think we're going to see more snow out of it. European ensemble, so this is the snowfall total for the European ensemble, and you can see it's got the footprint right in through here, so West Virginia back to the mountains of North Carolina. Some of this may be ice down here, and then going on off up to the mid-Atlantic, New Jersey, into New York, over into Boston and places along the coastline here. See a pretty good amount of snow, 6 inches, nothing to write home about, but that's an ensemble mean, so there's certainly some members that amp it up and other members kind of mute it out. The potential's here for a pretty big storm, so I think we're going to see that come together in the modeling over the coming days. This is the, so we're just taking a tour of the model snowfall maps. This is the Canadian depiction of how the storm will unfold. And you can see at the height of the storm, we've got snow, sleet, freezing rain, the whole gamut of winter weather. So we roll this back and see how this evolves. So we got snow breaking out across Kentucky, Tennessee, down into North Alabama. That is really prior to the storm getting its act together. So what's going to happen is a disturbance in the southern stream is going to merge with a disturbance in the northern stream. We're going to phase those together, and at some point, somewhere, that phasing is going to take place. If it's a late phase, it favors eastern sections. If it's an early phase, it's going to favor western sections like Tennessee, on up into the mid-Atlantic and Northeast. And so the Canadian is showing a nice little ice storm here in North Carolina, sleet north of that into Virginia, and then snow. It's one of the warmer solutions that is out there right now, but it can't be discounted because that's a possibility for sure. But it is a pretty significant winter storm. The low gets its act together, moves on up the coast, and pummels New England from there. So this is on the Tropical Tidbit site. Now let's go back to the snowfall total map for the Canadian, and here it is. So here's the footprint of the Canadian snow: 10 inches, 14 inches. So we're seeing a 10 to roughly 15-inch snowfall in this area through northern Virginia, West Virginia, up into New Jersey, DC. You guys are going to get some snow out of this, and it looks pretty good. This is sort of my thinking of where the at least right now, where we're most likely to see the most snow. So the freezing rain map for the Canadian, I think maybe this is a little bit overdone. The Canadian freezing rain maps tend to always be a little bit overdone, but either way, it's kind of hard to say for sure right now. We're talking about 6 days out, so don't pay too much attention to the amounts, but the footprint of it's pretty good. We're going to have strong cold air damming, and if that confluence can hang on in the northeast, it'll keep it cold throughout the storm. So that's the Canadian freezing rain map. The temperature is at the height of the storm in the 20s. So this is going to be a cold storm. It's not going to be marginal air mass, except for portions of the eastern coast here down into southern South Carolina to Georgia. It's going to be a little too warm down there probably to get snow, unless we somehow see a storm start to crank off the either in the Gulf or off the southeast coast. It's on the table, but it's not the most likely scenario, I think, at this point. So cold storm. And then if we look at the European model, this is the 12Z run. This just came out. And so again, how does that storm evolve? On the European, get a little icing breaking out here on Wednesday in North Carolina, snow falling in Tennessee. And then the storm really gets its act together. So you can see it start to develop off the South Carolina, North Carolina coast. Big ice storm. So Canadian had this too. So we can't discount that. Ice storm potential in the CAD areas. The synoptic setup certainly favors kind of a broader area of ice here. Virginia getting hammered with snow after, and then that load cranks, goes up the coast. You're really going to get, if this happens like this, you get a 984 millibar low off the coast. You are going to get a lot of snow up here in the mid-Atlantic, Virginia, DC, Baltimore, Trenton, on up into New York. You guys are going to get hammered. It goes on up to just blast the northeast. And if we take a look, actually, if we go to the east here, this will show it a little bit better. So you see how that does. It goes on up there, and then it goes out to sea. So it affects areas up here from Connecticut on down. And we can actually, here, let's do this on the fly. Let's take a look at the total snowfall for the New European. Look, so 24 inches up here, and I told you this was going to be a big banger. Look at that, 24 inches. 26 inches. So we're looking at 2 feet of snow from the New European. I don't get all excited yet. There's still a lot that can change here, but this is the area that I'm watching. I've been talking about a potential big storm for days. This is what I'm looking at. And so, a lot of, here, let's go over here. A lot of potential in this pattern. Here's the GFS. The GFS runs it out the same way, except it's not quite as strong. The cold air feed's not as good. And then you get kind of a weak little system. So the GFS ensemble was a little bit less robust than the European ensemble, and we see that reflected in the deterministic run too. So not a lot of hope here from the GFS, but the GFS is kind of not the most trustworthy model out at that time. So when you have several other models in agreement and the GFS is sitting on an island, I would probably toss the GFS right into the trash bin. This is its total snowfall, and you get a little bit of a burst of snow here along, I don't know, Chesapeake Bay up into Delaware and so forth, and eastern Maryland. So that's our GFS snowfall. And then finally, the icon. So the icon, not doing a great job with giving us a winter storm. Yesterday it did a great job. It showed 30 inches of snow, which was silly, but hey, it's fun to look at. This is not as fun to look at because it really doesn't, it keeps it a little bit warmer. It doesn't really amp up the storm and allow cold air to come in, and so you get kind of a flat solution and not a lot of snow from the icon today. The icon giveth and it taketh away. So that is the potential for our storm next week. A lot of solutions on the table, from flat and suppressed to more amped up. I'm favoring the more amped up solutions, and I think that we're going to have a nice winter storm along many areas of the East Coast when all is said and done. And that really brings us to, and the UK Met. I wanted to show you that. So the UK Met also has a nice storm. And if we look at the snowfall map for the UK Met, pretty much in line with what we saw earlier, right? So the European and the Canadian, same footprint. There's ice down here, I'm sure. That's not being counted in this map, but from Pivotal, it shows you a good area of snow across Virginia. So Virginia is the jackpot zone winner today. I expect that we'll see the footprint shift a little bit over time, but generally speaking, I think we're in good shape. If you're particularly in central and northern Virginia on up here into Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, this is looking like a fairly, Boston, Connecticut, and areas of central and western Connecticut as well. I think this is a good area to focus on. As we go forward for the next couple of days. Beyond that, the pattern gets a little bit murky out in time. There's a couple of conflicting signals. The MJO is certainly in good phases. La Nina is cranking up. The European model kind of brings that jet in, as I was saying before. If this happens like this, you're going to have cool air here, but it's not going to be cold. We won't see a lot of winter weather, particularly along the south. The GFS, a little bit of a different story. And so I'm using the 6Z run because the 12Z run hasn't finished. And if we run this out, you see a nice trough here in the east and a ridge out west that continues to hold through time. We get a little bit of that signal of the jet pushing in, but not quite as substantial as the European ensemble. And so you have a nice trough in the east signal still, so more chances for winter weather. And I think this pattern will kind of hold in place through mid-March. So we'll have plenty of time, as we get into March to really explore additional winter weather chances. Now, that brings us to the answer to our trivia question. So our question was, what is the term for the atmospheric phenomenon where a cold air layer becomes trapped beneath a warm air layer, often leading to fog and pollution? And the answer is an inversion. Temperature profiles usually decrease with height, but oftentimes you'll have a warm layer that gets trapped just above the ground, and that will lead to a little bit of air stagnation at the ground, and you tend to see fog and pollution get trapped below that as well. So that is the answer for today. And with that, I will say goodbye today and let you go. Thanks again for joining the show. I really appreciate it. As I said before, have any questions, comments, put those in the comment section. Prayer requests there too. Hit the like and subscribe button. And with that, this is Cold Rain reminding you, if you don't like the weather you saw today, there's another model out there with something better. It's your job to go find it. Now, if you're in North Carolina today, you might want to check out the Korean. All right, take care. See ya.